top story for today. Is this the end of the Hayabusa?
This just in, Suzuki may pull the plug on the Hayabusa.
This is a tricky time. It's been 10 years already, and a decade ago, I asked the same questions before this was born. True Busa. Can there be another? Keeping this legacy intact is daunting, and going from second generation to the third, it felt like it hadn't changed.
Busa has changed in the most obvious way. Even at a quick glance, there's no confusing this with the previous generation, and thank God for that. It is sharper, it is modern, and I don't mean the LED headlamps and tail lamps. I mean details like these underslung mirrors which look gorgeous, but at the same time it is still very much a Busa with that headlamp squashing down on the air intakes. It's long, it's voluptuous, and not exactly pretty from every angle. The beauty of what they've achieved with the third gen doesn't quite hit home until you bring the second gen into the frame. From the fairing to the tank to the seats, everything is lower. The bodywork is wrapped tighter and has angular aggression about it. Suzuki could and should have shouted, "This is leaner and meaner." So Suzuki designers have done their work, but have the engineers taken things a bit easy? Don't get me wrong, it's just that when you look at the specs, the wheelbase is the same. The twin spar frame is the same. And give or take 5 or 10 millimeters, the overall dimensions are also the same. And on a chonker of a motorcycle like that, the weight savings are totaling up to 2 kilograms. But then you get on the motorcycle, and within a few meters, you realize some sorcery has occurred. It doesn't just look it, it actually feels lighter and tighter. The Busa was always light on its feet once it got going, but now, even at parking speeds, it feels so manageable. It feels compact around you, modern. Basically, it doesn't feel intimidating anymore, which means the Busa now is a lot more accessible to many more riders.
It also feels a whole lot more premium. The chrome glistens, the screens glow with all the new electronic settings you can play with, but the analog clocks have been retained. And thank God for that. They are beautiful.
So the new Busa, it seems familiar, but it has changed. In its appeal, it's become more lustrous, it's become more elegant. But the highlight of the Busa has always been its welcome. And now with the third gen, that welcome has become warmer still. In 1999, Suzuki launched a time machine, because the riders of the Hayabusa got transported into an unimaginable future, and it took 2 generations and 20-something years for its effortless and endless performance to start feeling normal. So when it came time for the 3rd generation, it was expected and hoped that it would be a time machine once again. And possibly as the last Busa with a heart that beats rather than hums, we hoped it would be momentous. But then came 2021.
Emission norms put a noose around the Hyper Club. The Busa, though, soldiered on, although with caution.
To make the tailpipes cleaner, Suzuki have made hundreds of changes to the engine, and then they've worked twice as hard to improve performance, which is why they've thrown in lighter pistons, connecting rods, new valves, new fuel injection system, new intake systems. There's new. But what's not new is the displacement, which is unchanged. The compression ratio hasn't gone up. In fact, a couple of things have gone down, like power, torque, and fuel efficiency, by a bit for most parts. So you could say that at the heart of it, the Busa hasn't really changed, at least not for the better.
But something is different.
The attitude. The Busa now seems angry. And you can feel that anger every time you prod it. That distinct sense of urgency made me believe that this must have shorter gearing, when in fact it actually has taller gearing. How did that happen? Well, there's this huge bump in torque right from low to mid-range, and that means even as an everyday motorcycle, the Busa has become that much easier to ride. But more importantly, when it comes to the dash to 100, despite the drop in power and torque, the new Busa won't be outgunned by the older one. If you are into hyper touring, then you know the Busa is legendary. And the Gen 3 is, well, a very happy mild muncher. But in terms of attitude, here again you find a slight difference. This feels like it's kind of straining at the leash and isn't quite ready to sit down in a relaxed manner, which the older one did. But if you're looking at ergonomics, the changed handlebar position makes it easier for shorter riders to reach out, but taller riders will find the lower section still to be a bit cramped. And when it comes to ride quality, this is proper Suzuki, which is comfortable. But again, there is a sense of tautness here on the newer motorcycle. This is kind of like your favorite gaming chair, whereas that is like your favorite lounger. If you're looking for the true Busa experience of its tireless torque yanking the horizon closer towards you in a flash, well, this 3rd generation you'll find is gritting its teeth just a little bit as it gets past 240 kilometers an hour, whereas the older motorcycle at that point would be licking its lips and smiling. But make no mistake, this is still a very rapid motorcycle, and for those getting introduced to the Busa for the very first time, will find it just as intoxicating. But it is interesting to note that the Busa has changed. But why? Now the Busa's calling card has been its speed, but the reason why riders fall in love with it is how it handles. For a 270 kilogram motorcycle, it's magical. There's a fluidity about it which is just so charming. But a lot has changed in 20 years. There are a lot of newer motorcycles, much lighter, with frames and engines which are hard to distinguish from each other, and lots of electronics. And Suzuki's answer to all of that is, yes, as you know, a lot of sameness but fine-tuned. So the suspension, reworked but not electronic. The chassis, same, but the geometry has been changed. And the result is... What an incredible lesson! Fine-tune, optimize, maximize. With just a few tweaks, the Busa is such a different animal. You don't have to ask it nicely anymore. You don't have to hold back. You can push it hard, and when you do, it might just ask you to work a bit harder. This is so much. This is so quick in transitions. This is sharp. Maybe not laser sharp, but it is sharp. The tank shaped beautifully so you can hug it when you lean into a corner. The new tires giving you that much more grip and feel.
The real reason for the change in handlebar position makes sense now, as it gives the rider much better front-end feel.
So if you are looking for a potent track bike, ignoring the Busa might not be a great idea.
While its agility needs a bit of getting used to, it is a confident machine, no matter what the conditions. With an IMU, lean-sensitive traction control, wheelie control, launch control, putting power down has become even easier than before. Suzuki have even slapped on Stilemmas from Brembo. These brakes give much better bite, but when you jam them hard, they still feel spongy. Not very 2021.
Now, it all fits. The sharper styling, the angry engine, the tauter suspension, with the sportier handling. The Busa has changed in the third generation, and it's trying to fit into the world of 10Rs and V4s. And I have a sneaking suspicion it plans to harry them hard. So, is this a true Busa? Well, the third generation is friendlier and more potent, hence more Busa. But it is deviating from the path followed by its predecessors. It has sacrificed some of its soul, which drew on endless reserves of performance, and instead it has put an emphasis on sport. And that it does convincingly. So, as is, the all-new Busa is something that's deserving of any and every pedestal you could put it on. So, it is a tricky time once more. The responsibility of the true Busa passes on. Will we ride the fourth generation, look back at this and say, it's the same? That will be a happy moment, won't it?